Weird, convoluted, stupid shit. Anal eating mummy god told me. I don't know why. Just recently, these messages have come to me. One of the things is when I was talking to him, I expressed that I absolutely hated emotion, so I simply repressed mine. Yes, part of my stoic nature was I didn't give a fuck about my feelings because when I was in middle school and high school, they just got in the way. The same way they get in the way now. But I don't blame myself for being emotionally dysregulated after what these people did. Anybody would. And that's why, we're not going to get into it because the word is accountability and responsibility, which is two things this church does not do. For any reason. But here's the thing that bugs me. Everything Anal Eating Mummy God said to me was completely contradictory to who he was, who Blondie is, and who every member of this church is. They are complete and utter bastard assholes with no concern for anybody else outside of themselves. Like I said, the only good member of this church is a dead member of this church. None of them come by their greatness ornately or in a form that they actually earn it. They actually just find other people, fuck them up, and steal their ideas, and then pretend to be great. And this goes double for Blondie, who's going to pretend to turn in a human trafficking ring, who's going to pretend to be me or whatever, because what the world needs is fake heroes, apparently. They don't need real ones that actually did shit like me. My story is fucking incredible. Blondie's story is fucking lame because he's a fucking loser. And he can't handle that, so he's envious of my story. So what's he do? He fucks me up and steals my story. If you did a story like this, you would have to do a story of like a war veteran that actually served in the military and then one of those stolen valor guys killing him and taking his boots and clothing and then pretending to be him his rest of his life. That is what Blondie's doing. That is what everybody in this church does. So when you talk about integrity, which part of integrity is that? But I can nitpick these people all day. But one of the problems with ADHD is injustice, and I have a big problem with injustice, and I assume that has something to do with having ADHD because I literally read about it. Now, when I spoke to Anal Eating Mummy God about injustice, he kept kind of just doing this breathing out thing like his soul was being stolen from him because he was like, justice is complicated. Basically, he explained that his church has sidestepped justice its entire existence, and I told him that's exactly what's wrong with it. And why it could never be a good place, because you have to have justice in order to have justice. It's kind of common sense. To these people, it's not, because good and evil are both the same thing in their mind, so therefore, there's no way justice could exist, because justice involves there being a right and wrong. This is where me and Blondie will never see eye to eye on. He is somebody that needs a bullet to the head, nothing more. But everybody's too much of a coward to do the job. Now, Anal Eating Mummy God, after talking to me and explaining to me that he hated Stoics, he couldn't stand them because I guess he's impulsive and stupid and can't control his emotions. But these guys are weird because they're like, I do control my emotions. I push them into the back of my mind where they can slither into something they're not, and then I go and murder you because you made me feel a certain way. So I repress the emotion, and then it comes out in a bizarre form that involves me killing you. Doesn't sound very mentally healthy, but whatever. So when I'm talking to Anal Eating Mummy God, I basically explained that sometime in 3rd grade, I decided I couldn't stand my own emotions. I literally used to write diaries about how I couldn't stand my own emotions. And that makes sense because the ADHD brain has overwhelming emotions. They're like retarded. They're like turned up to 11 for whatever goddamn reason. And in my brain, they're just weakness. Now, when I hired Luigi Mangione to go shoot that CEO, I remember telling him, like, we have an overwhelming fucking law crew, and they're just going to get him a presidential pardon and get him out of prison. That is exactly what my original plan was. But Anal Eating Mummy God took up some issues with me because I literally sent some members of this church to their deaths on missions I assigned them. And then he was like, well, you didn't seem to care about them. And I was like, well, it was about getting the job done. And he was like, well, people are assets. And if you just kill all your assets, you don't have any assets. And I was like, yeah, but you guys have like a million assets. So let's be honest, a couple of them died. Does it really fucking matter? And he went quiet on the phone. And then he was like, do you seriously not have any compassion at all? And I was just like, compassion for what? Garbage people? I have no compassion for garbage people. You guys just go around murdering people to get stew laid. Okay. You're the worst kind of bros, okay? Because you're the beta bro that kills to get your semi-alpha bro laid. Okay? You're a loser. And he probably fucks you and your wife, by the way. Yeah, Stu probably fucks you and your wife, and that's not a joke. That's just how much of a beta you are. Anal Eating Mummy God said, this was the weird thing he said. He said it's actually a good thing to have strong emotions. And he's like, and he wished he had them. He was jealous. He didn't say he was jealous, but he was envious of my emotions and how powerful they were. And then he explained to me that it's important to have compassion. And that when they made me leader, some of the stuff, the rhetoric that was put into my head may not have been the best ideal rhetoric because I was put in there without a proper scripture on how to lead, and he said that he was guilty of this because he was raised, he was groomed to be non-compassionate and non-understanding, and all those things came way later in his life. He became compassionate and understanding. And then he was explaining that he became an effective leader way later in his life because he learned compassion, because he learned how to actually care about people. Now, in my brain, like I said, there's a bunch of stupid shit for whatever stupid fucking reason. Black and white thinking and all the dumb fucking things that Anal Eating Mummy God put into my head to explain to me all of my shortcomings as if he wants me to overcome them. But I say to him, for what? And here's my theory. I think this thing was supposed to be already over and I was either supposed to succeed or fail. And I think all this information on being a leader was supposed to come after I turned myself in for hiring Luigi Mangione. So I have a script in my head about how to lead, but nothing to lead because I didn't do the thing I was supposed to do because I was crippled with fucking fear, anxiety, heavy metals, PTSD, ADHD, a complete mental shift, being pressured into doing something I was terrified of doing, giving bad advice from everybody, and learning about fear, and learning about chelation therapy, and my mind was pretty wrapped up in a whole bunch of shit, not to mention I didn't have CHO line, so I couldn't focus to begin with. And I think part of the reason why everything's become a lot more clear to me is because I do have CHO line. One of the things that keeps happening to me is I keep wanting to cry, and I have no idea why I want to cry. I'm not afraid to admit that. I have no idea why I want to cry. Probably because I'm a loser. Probably because I think the only way out of this, we're not going to talk about that, because somebody will call the fucking police on me again. But there are heroes people need, and there are heroes that people don't need. And the more I think about this, Blondie's a fake hero. And maybe that's the kind of hero America needs, is somebody who's just completely fake. He's going to go through this a completely fictitious thing. After he turns these people in, they're not going to try to kill him or poison him. And I was talking to the AI, and it listed people that this church, like they tried to take this church to court, and some lady got beat. They put Drano in her orange juice. There's a guy that was beat, raped, and waterboarded. Another dude just disappeared. All these people tried to take on the church, and they got killed, and Blondie's about to go in there, take on the church, and nothing's going to happen to him, which is probably going to be the funniest thing, because even the people on the internet are just going to be like, that's how you know it's fucking rigged. I said it to Anal Eating Mummy God. I said it would be the funniest shit on the planet if Blondie turns in the human trafficking ring. Everything goes his way and nobody cares because everybody knows how you filthy, disgusting bastards work. And they know it's complete. Blondie's glory is completely fictitious. Like, they know that it's all fake. And they know he's not a real hero. He's just some loser that was born into a position to win. And the church set him up to win. And they handed it to him. And just like they handed everything to him. Yeah. But I suppose it's whatever, because I remember Anal Eating Mummy God was like, well, just because everything's handed to Blondie, and we had a conversation about easy work versus hard work, and he was explaining to me that the church leaders actually do have to do really hard things, but I'm not wrong that they are definitively babied by the church, and church members go out of their way to make sure these babies get their way, which is why they behave the way they do. There's no consequences for their actions. Because he explained that if you give them consequences, then it might ruin their self-confidence. It might cause them to second-guess themselves in situations. So they can't have anything bad happen to them. And that's where Blondie's extreme amount of arrogance comes from. And it is arrogance. It's not confidence. It's arrogance. Comes from. But he also explained to me that people like me are just as important. And that he regrets everything. Basically, he regretted everything that happened to me. That everything was unfair to me. And he was like, anybody would have broke under the circumstances. Anybody would have made the mistakes I made. And I don't know how I feel about that, but like I said, you're supposed to be, you guys are callous, uncaring, you murder anybody, you're fucking violent and stupid, you report everybody, get them all killed, and then Anal Eating Mummy God's like, be compassionate, be kind, be good, be a strong leader, have all these traits that we consider weak, and then become those weak traits, and become a leader, but our guys will just virtue signal and just kill people because of the way they feel, because they're moderately retarded, and I'm just like, what the fuck is it you guys want from me? Just speak plainly and don't use hypnosis. Jesus Christ.